Well, let's jump into the questions here. Roland is giving us some eye-opening statistics here. He says of the 1.42 billion baptized Catholics, which, by the way, I wonder how they keep track of all this, only 3% of them attend daily mass, and 14% attend weekly mass. So that's our minimum obligation. When you go to Sunday mass, only 14% of those 1.42 billion attend the weekly mass. What's the best way for us to evangelize to those 83%? In your opinion, what do you think?
Well, there's numbers, there's statistics, and there are damn lies. So this numbers come out of the Vatican. It's counting the entire world, which I hate to say is meaningless. I being a Catholic in Vietnam is different than my being a Catholic, in Missouri. I being a Catholic in the mountains of the Andes, I'm being a Catholic in downtown New York City. Right. So I tend to set those aside. And if you look at the quote unquote American statistics, when they say, survey says Catholic, yada, 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 I always ask, are they asking questions of people after Mass in my parking lot? Or are they down at the mall asking somebody who has a clipboard and you force them into a corner and okay, I'm Catholic because I'm not Buddhist. So I think part of it is first we have to identify what do we mean by Catholic. A lot of this has to do with my experience in the military. On paper, when I served as a chaplain with a Navy chaplain of the Marine Corps back in from 88 to 2017, pretty much about 35% of the Marine Corps on paper was Catholic. Well, that's self-identified. I still remember talking to this one corporal. We were crossing the ocean, 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit. We're halfway across the Atlantic. We're topside getting some sunlight. And I was trying to explain to this Marine that he's not Catholic. And he goes, "But Father, it's on my dog tags." I said, "You could put Jedi Knight on your dog tags. They don't make you Luke Skywalker, okay?" The fact of the matter is, your grandmother is Catholic. Your mother used to be, and you never got baptized. When you joined the Marine Corps, your grandmother said, "Tell them you're Catholic." He wasn't even baptized, but on paper, it said he was. So I would say at least a third of the guys on paper who said they were Catholic maybe were baptized, never catechized, never got anything. I spent a large portion of my ministry preparing guys for First Holy Communion and confirmation who on paper were Catholic, but were no different than the Baptist sitting next to them. I think another strata is, I think, again, go to the United States, there's nothing restricting us. I know I've met priests like, say, from Montana, who cover huge swaths of land, and they have churches scattered. And if you don't get to the 10 a.m. Mass in this town, you're going to have to follow Father on the highway because he has a 3 o'clock, 70 miles away. So depending where you are, the availability is a factor a little bit. So I would pull back, and I generally say and I'd have to look up the stats, but I think right now they're saying about 32% of America is Catholic. I would say 16% is Catholic, and 16% used to be, maybe someday they'll come home. I'm afraid they're not going to, because after 50 years of horrible religious education, 50 years of vacuous preaching, it's just not going to happen. I have with many of my adult nephews and nieces raised in the faith by my brothers and sisters. They did a great job. They went to church. One of my nephews never missed Mass all the way through college, and he was in a state university, was a confirmation sponsor even a couple times. But then when he left college, there's not like a rejection or I hate that. They just kind of drift away because we never sow deep enough seeds. We might have taught them prayers, we never taught them to pray. And so they don't see missing it. I get in an atypical diocese, in a very atypical parish. Of our registered parishioners, compared to people who actually show up, we have about a 65% participation rate every week. That is not normal. I have a very, very high daily Mass attendance rate. Not normal. But you would not come to daily Mass unless you understood the glory of the Mass. And at best, we've taught them the duty of the Mass. And we have a duty, start there. But sadly, a lot of people just never got that love, understand the depth of what the Eucharist is. So I rarely say it's a rejection. I really blame the clergy and the leadership for not teaching the faith well enough. Because one thing I can't say, when I was on active duty, especially when I was deployed overseas, places like Iraq and Kuwait and Jordan and parts of Syria and East Africa, I had a lot of great military people who would do backflips to get to Mass. And I especially remember I had a general officer, a one-star general in the Army, who was visiting our base there in Camp Lemonnier. This is north of Somalia. By the way, if you ever get the chance to go there, don't. Horrible place. And he was going to be there for 10 days. And I had this tiny little Blessed Sacrament chapel that you might get 15 people into. I go there in the morning at 6:30. There's a little note on one of the chairs from this general confirming that we had mass at noon. And so I called him up. I said, yes, I do, sir. And he showed up for noon mass, and he came to noon mass every day, and then came on Sunday, went to mass every day for 10 days, because the previous year he was in Afghanistan and had 4 chances to go to mass in 1 year. And so there are those who do hunger for it. I think it would be the word we need to seek out. We talk about evangelization, teaching. We want to teach them to have the hunger, really hunger for Christ.